I don't have any opening remarks, so I'm happy to take questions.
So the first, the capital gains tax cut bill it's $250 million. I mean, in the big picture, it's not nearly as large as what they're talking about with a flat tax. What is the biggest worry you have about the tax policies that are coming out of the Republican side?
I'll start by saying overall, the tax policies seem to be far more about the message it sends to voters than actually saving the average Missourian money. Unfortunately, it's really easy to say, we passed another tax cut, we passed another tax cut, but what does that do for Missourians? It affects the services and the programs that our state and our local municipalities are able to offer, and eventually it's absolutely going to lead to higher taxes in other areas. But I'm going to let Representative Butt speak to a little bit. He was a ranking member on that committee, and he had a lot more hands-on experience with this bill this session.
Thank you, Madam Speaker.
So, it's my 7th year here, and we've heard numerous bills. I've been on a bunch of tax committees for a long time. The message from the Republican side is, as just stated, I'm just here to cut your taxes. What they don't ever really address is either cutting services, or they're just going to rotate or shift the tax burden to another form of taxation. So if you notice, just today with Chad Perkins down there, I'm like, you want to bring up Tennessee, Florida, and Texas. I'm like, throw out Florida and Texas. Not comparable. But let's talk Tennessee. We have a 4.225 state sales tax. Tennessee is about 7.5%. Their property taxes are higher. So yeah, they have no income tax. All they're doing is shifting the burden. And my argument is does that benefit really anybody? My idea, I think that's best. Missouri has a broad base of taxation. Keep that rate as low as possible. If we throw it out to the public, or even everybody standing right here, do you want us to cut your taxes? You want to pay no taxes? We joke and say all the time, that would be probably passed with 90% of the vote. But you have to explain, even the bill that we've heard today for this capital gains tax cut, it already receives preferential treatment.
Well, that's at the federal level.
It is at the federal level, correct?
I ask the question that is probably the typical question when you bring this up, which is, why should a CEO's stock options be taxed less than the administrative assistant's salary? And the response was that a lot of stock options are actually taxed at regular income. If there was a federal change on carried interest, would that alter your perception of this tax cut?
No, it wouldn't. We're ready at the way we tax capital gains at the Missouri level, is at just the current income tax level. We already have a very non-progressive income tax schedule, right? You max out at $9,000 in one, you're at the top level. We have gradually reduced over the past 8 years or so the marginal top income tax rate in this state. So if decreasing state income taxes, which I know are popular across the board, would be the catalyst for growth that would drive people to the state, they'd already be coming, because we've gone from 6 down to 4.7. So that's why I would not change my point. And that's not even addressing the fiscal note. If it's anywhere from 300, 400, 500 million, what are we talking? We've already committed to important spending increases in education, for example, and I'm going to keep sounding that alarm. We need that money for this reason.
I would like to ask about some of the bipartisan legislation that's been moving early in this session. I just asked the Republicans who were up here about the bill that just passed out of the House today dealing with foster children and the money that's been withheld from them, and some of these other bills that have gotten hearings this week. Is kind of the kumbaya part of the session right now?
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, in a situation where we have a supermajority rule in this chamber, it's welcome that the Republican leadership is starting with, it did start, I should say, with a bill that really does serve our constituents. It serves some of the most vulnerable people in our state. And it's my opinion that those are the issues that we should continue to focus on. These culture war issues that we see every single day in this building, they're exhausting and they're frustrating, not only for us as lawmakers, but for our constituents. And I really wish that we could see a little bit more of that kumbaya mentality in this chamber.
There was a bill that got a hearing this week, and we've seen some of these again before, that dealt with shackling of pregnant women. It had, as the pro tem characterized it, it would restore SNAP benefits for those with nonviolent drug offenses, some other, again, bipartisan legislation, but especially that shackling legislation I know has been important to a number of your members. I think you've spoken about that a number of times before. If you would just comment on seeing that get some movement.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it is so important for members to continue to build the relationships that bring us together on issues like, corrections issues, shackling pregnant inmates. These are human rights things, and I think that, I'm going to give the members in this chamber a lot of credit for working together and having those big, hard conversations to get that work done. Like I said, I hope to see more bills like that where we can come together on. Unfortunately, that's not typically the case as we get further into session, but it's certainly nice to see.
Representative Fogel, is there anything, since you're starting to do a deeper dive into the budget process, anything that you want to highlight in terms of what you like, what you don't like, where some of the challenges will be?
Absolutely. So as you know, we're about halfway through taking testimony from the departments, taking a deep dive into what's in the budget, what's not in the budget. I think I will echo Representative Butt's comments. To me, right now, the most problematic thing is the underfunding of the foundation formula, again, by about $300 million, and then the $50 million that are going to a voucher program to educate children at private schools, which to me is kind of the antithesis of America, and the things that the thing that makes this country great is that every single child has access to a quality and free public education. And with the advent of, for the first time in the state's history, direct tax dollars going to offset the cost of private school tuition, I think that's very problematic for the landscape of education. We are going to continue to get into things like health and mental health and look forward to having those conversations. Of course, my caucus and I are supportive of some of the investments that the governor has championed, child care, infrastructure, things like changing child care subsidy payments from attendance to enrollment, things that are going to be beneficial for people back home, our child care subsidy payments being paid at the front of the month and not the back. Those might seem boring, but those are the things that help families back home, and we're excited to work alongside the majority on those.
Okay. I haven't gotten into the MoDOT budget yet, but does it continue to fully fund the I-70 and the I-44 project?
Yeah. Yep. With the exception of what was vetoed by the governor on I-44, but yes, those projects are funded.
You mentioned the foundation formula and how important it will be to fully fund that, and sitting through the DESE budget discussions, it seemed like there were a number of Republicans who are working to educate other members on how the formula works and what it requires and why. And I got the impression that there's substantial support for that $300 million on the Republican side in the Budget Committee. How are you reading?
Yeah, I share that optimism and that hope. I think one of the most important things we do as a General Assembly is funding our schools back home. And I think that there's bipartisan concern of what that will look like if we underfund it, and continued concern about what the governor's intentions are by opening up the foundation formula and either rewriting it or tweaking it. If we have that conversation, my hope would be that we have we continue a conversation about how to make more investments, not less. And I think it's been clear from the governor's office that that is not his intention.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Have a great weekend.